This is my 2005 e46 ZHP coupe. I've had it for a year and a half now. And today, because I'm getting sick and tired of talking shit about other people's cars, I'm just gonna talk shit about this car and talk about why you shouldn't buy one if you're looking to get one. So yeah. Okay, now before we get into the video, just an FYI, I don't know if you guys know this, but the first video on my channel was talking about how I prefer driving this car over the Porsche 718 Cayman GTS. So yeah, just a disclaimer, because I know BMW guys also tend to get really offended for some reason. Like, it's like, if I call this car fast, then a bunch of people are gonna be like, whoa, it's not as fast as the N55 or the fucking B58. And then if I call this slow, they're gonna be like, well, you don't know how to appreciate driving dynamics, and you don't know how to drive a slow car fast, blah blah blah. You just can't win. You literally can't win, dude. It's crazy. Oh Jesus, why'd you park so close to me? All right, so let me just tell you why I'm starting to not appreciate this car as much as I used to, right? In the past 3 months of running this channel, maybe it's been 3.5 now, I've driven like a good amount of cars. I think I've driven 10 different cars. Some notable mentions: I drove the E30, the RSX Type S, the S2000, the Miata, the GR86, and I can't remember anything else. I've driven a Porsche, right? And through just driving all those different cars, the thing I realized about the E46, the biggest flaw about the E46, is that this is just one big compromise, right? Like, if you're too lazy to watch the entire video and you just want me to get to the point is that this car is kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none. It's good at everything reasonably well for the price point, but it doesn't really do anything particularly that well, right? Like, I'll give you an example, right? This car is basically 20 years old now, and so it's classified as an old car, right? And when people buy old cars, or when people obsess about old cars, the reason they obsess over it is because of the fact that it's a raw analog experience, right? They want the good old days. They like the tactile feedback. They don't want it. Oh my god, dude, that squirrel was freaking mutilated. You know, like you see those comments where people are just like, oh, like, new cars are so numb nowadays. I miss the good old days. Right? And when they're talking about the good old days, this might count as the good old days, depending on who's talking. Because if they're 50 years old, they're probably not talking about this. But actually, even if you're 50 years old and this car came out, you were 30. So you're probably talking about the good old days. Anyways, so like the average person looking to buy an E46 today buys an E46 because they're looking for a raw analog experience, right? They want that old car charm. But the problem is, the E46 is really refined for what it is. Oh, look at that. Is that a... Oh yeah, it is. Oh, it's an E36 M3. Oh, in a beautiful blue, dude. That is... Ooh. Yeah, see, if you're looking for a raw driving experience, you're probably looking for an E36 M3. Or like, I drove my friend's E30, and that thing felt raw. The RSX Type S also felt really raw. The S2000 felt really raw. And after driving all those different cars, when I look at this car, I wouldn't really say that this is a raw driving experience. It's pretty comfortable. The sound editing's there. It's just not a raw car. And on top of that, this car is not that light either. Like, it's not really heavy by modern standards, but like, nothing about this screams light. Like, you still feel the weight. It's not gonna take corners like a GR86 would, or even that car would. The biggest problem with the E46 is it's right at the cutoff between old and analog and the modern era, right? And that's why people like this car. This car signifies the perfect blend of analog and modern. But then the trade-off you get from that is the fact that this car is not necessarily raw, but it's also not modern and comfortable. Like, on a scale, if a car's over 3,000 pounds, it's a heavy car, if you're really gauging lightweight, right? And so this is kind of a heavy car, but it doesn't have modern turbocharging. And a lot of purists are gonna say, well, yeah, this is the good old days. You have a stick shift, hydraulic steering, and a naturally aspirated engine. It's like the perfect slow car, fast car, or whatever. But it's not. Because it's naturally aspirated, but it's heavy, it just feels underpowered. And it's kind of frustrating sometimes, right? Like, it doesn't feel raw. You don't feel any vibrations from the chassis, or like, you just feel weight. Like, this feels heavy, this feels heavy, this shit feels heavy. Like, everything feels heavy. If I'm just being really, really harsh about this car, it basically just has everything that kind of sucks about old cars, and then everything that kind of sucks about new cars. And I think that's the thing that, like, I'm starting to feel frustrated by 1.5 years into ownership. Maybe also due to the fact that, like, I now get to drive a lot of cool cars, or like I've gotten the opportunity to drive a lot of cool cars. I think I'm just hitting that phase where I'm not necessarily in love with this thing as of right now. Like, look, I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna be completely honest. It might just be nostalgia talking, okay? But my first car was an E93 335i in an automatic. It was a convertible, right? I know I'm spoiled, okay? But I got really lucky, because, like, that was my dad's car, and then he moved back to Korea when I was in high school, and the car was just sitting for a while, and then I got my license and I got to drive it around, right? And it might be because that was my first car, but I also have, like, a lot of people that have ridden in that car and also have driven that car, and they all miss it. Something about it, despite all the flaws and stuff, like, because it was a convertible, it was heavy, it was turbocharged, it was just a really charming car. And this car doesn't feel as special as the 335i, and I feel like the steering in the E90 was just as good as this. The infotainment was better, it was better insulated, like, it was better at everything this car was trying to be, while still giving the same analog experience. Like, if I want, whoa, holy shit, if I wanted a good blend of analog and modern, I'd probably look at the E90 chassis and not the E46. Yeah, so there's that. But now I feel like I've been talking too much shit about this car, so I'm just gonna go back to talking some positives. I still prefer this car over the GR86, because I feel like even the GR86, granted, it's a better sports car and it's more purposefully built, it's still like the compromise of the lineup. You get the GR86 because you want a more comfortable daily with a little bit more space, back seats and trunk space or whatever. And, like, if you really didn't care about trunk space or back seats or just, like, practicality, I think the Miata is better than the GR86 in every single aspect. And personally, when I'm thinking about the GR86, and holy, that's a Storado, dude. What the? If I was looking to get a GR86 and I'm looking for a sports car that's also practical, I'd rather just go the route of the E46, because the E46 is going to be more practical. Like, people can actually sit in the back seats, and for the price, I can just modify this car to be just as good as the GR86. It's not going to be as light as the GR86, but it's going to sound better. It's got better steering feel, and I feel like the chassis itself has just as much potential. But if you're just looking at this car individually, I just don't think it holds up that well. And before any of you guys say that, like, the only reason I feel this way about the E46 is try not to get distracted by the Ferrari. Yeah, before any of you guys say that I only feel this way about this car because it's not an M3, let me just tell you something really interesting, okay? I spoke to Drew from Enthusiast Auto Group, right? Because I was actually looking to maybe get a appraisal on this car. And this guy has a fuck ton of experience just driving all sorts of M3s and M cars, right? And he told me that he prefers the ZHP over the M3. And his reasoning was that the E46 M3 is like 7 out of 10 good in comfort and luxury, and 7 out of 10 good in being a sports car. And he just felt like it was too much of a compromise, you know what I mean? Like, it's trying to do the comfort luxury thing at the same time as the sports car thing. And at least in his opinion, the ZHP is actually trying to do that, right? Like, it's meant to be that. It's meant to be luxury, comfort, and also sporty. And he was basically saying that he was disappointed by the e46 M3 because it just didn't do the sports car thing very well. And I haven't driven the e46 M3, but I feel like I have a good idea of what he's talking about, because that's kind of what I feel about this car in the first place, right? And I'm just making all these modifications to make it sportier when it doesn't really want to be that sporty. But like, I have to, because it doesn't really do the luxury comfort thing very well anymore either, because it's an old car. And if I wanted a luxurious, comfortable ride, I'd probably look at a newer car. So like, yeah. Crazy thing is, I drove Jasper's Miata 3 times now, right? And the craziest thing I noticed about the ND3 Miata is that it's almost more comfortable than this car. Like, not really, right? That, like, this car's obviously heavier, it feels more planted, and it's got that luxury thing going on. But the Miata is a lot more luxurious and comfortable than you might think. I think it's honestly more pleasurable to sit inside a Miata than a GR86. And that's coming from a guy that is over 6 feet tall with shoes on. And so even like the luxury comfort aspect of this car is just not up to the standards that we have in modern day. Or I think the best way to put it is, this is a better daily driver than the E30 or the S2000 or the RSX Type S that I drove, right? But at the same time, those cars feel so raw and just enjoyable at every single level that like the discomfort becomes forgivable. It's like I'm willing to overlook the lack of refinement that those cars give because of the other things that the car is good at. But then you get to the E46 and I don't think it invokes an emotional reaction out of me. You know what I mean? Maybe it's good because like I drive this car every single day. That's probably true. You know, like if I get out of a different car and I haven't driven this car in a while and I get back in, I'm pretty excited to drive it, right? Actually, yeah, dude, I might just be tripping. I might just be saying this because this is my daily and I'm used to it. Fuck. I don't know if you guys watched that video where I drove the S2000 and the Miata, but in that video, I genuinely realized that I bought the wrong car, and I got upset in the middle of my shoot because I was just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life, right? The reason I felt that way is because I realized that I actually don't care as much about comfort as I think I do, and I don't care as much about the raw analog driving experience as I think I do. You know what I mean? Like, I thought I really cared a lot about hydraulic steering or like whatever. I don't know. I haven't lived with those things long term to really know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, I might just be saying this just to like find something to be upset about with my current car, right? But I just realized that like I care most, or I think I care most about the driving dynamics and lightweight. And if it means that I can get this at the highest level, I'm willing to compromise the practicality and the comfort and the reliability or whatever, right? And so yeah, it's just like, you know, now this thing feels just more like a compromise. Like I just want a Miata, dude. I want a fucking Miata.